Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. It's a crowded field for Chelan County Commissioner District 3. One of our candidates who's here today, you might know him from previous offices. Brad Hawkins is here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Jefferson. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could come in.
Yeah.
You have been a political figure in the Wenatchee Valley for quite some time. This is your first run for Chelan County Commissioner, to my knowledge. In case people have never seen your name on a ballot before, which I would doubt, tell us about yourself. How'd you get to where you are?
Well, I know a lot of people think of me like in politics. I think of it as public service, but I never let my public service positions define who I am. So I'm a proud father and a husband. I've been married to my wife, Shauna, for 22 years. We have two boys, Luke and Tyler. They're both teenagers. They grow up so fast. I'm a product of Wenatchee and Chelan County, and my father's Buell. A lot of people know my dad. He was a former county commissioner who held the same position, actually. So if I get elected to this position, I'll be able to sort of fulfill our family legacy in some respects. But I've spent about 18 to 20 years working for a local PUD. I've served on school boards. I've served as our state representative for 4 years, and for the last 8 years as our state senator, which has been a tremendous honor. So,
well, why the choice then, Brad? You and I have talked about this a little bit before, but the choice to run at the county level versus running again to represent the 12th. Why make that choice?
Well, it was definitely something that my family, we carefully considered, but we were really thrown off with the recent redistricting. A federal judge, the state of Washington was sued in federal court by an activist group out of Los Angeles, and the long-established legislative boundaries were radically adjusted and split the Wenatchee Valley. And I relocated to Wenatchee and decided to run for my reelection to the Senate. But you know, after looking at the boundary maps and all the miles and all the trips over Stevens Pass and Blewett Pass and Snoqualmie Pass, largely to serve other communities, you know, they're great people, but I realized that I should probably try to refocus on local service. And in all of that time, you know, over the mountains and then off to Olympia for 4 months, you know, serving in the legislature has been a tremendous honor, but public service isn't without sacrifice. And so those are all these days and hours and months away from my family. And so with Tiffany Gehring retiring from Chelan County as a Chelan County Commissioner, and with that seat open, there was an opportunity for me to stay here year-round, and we just felt like that would be best for my family, and then also for me personally, I could take all of my experiences and put them to best use to maximize opportunities for Chelan County, the county where I was raised. And so that, along with, you know, my dad did have to step away from county commissioner early. My mom suffered from early Parkinson's and dementia. So we always felt in our family that my dad's service was cut short. And so all of those things together kind of give me an opportunity to do this and serve the people and honor my father and do all those things.
Well, you've interfaced often with the county while you've been serving in the legislature. So are there particular issues that you're aware of in Chelan County that are kind of, you know, crying out to be addressed that you think you would be suited to address as commissioner? Well,
I think I'd be really suited to help, but I do feel like the county commission is doing a good job. So I'm proud to, you know, if I have the opportunity to join, you know, to do the best I can. But I think the most important things for Chelan County is to continue to find ways to grow our county economy. And if we can do that, we can try to maintain a balanced budget. And people want to talk about all sorts of different policy issues and these things, but at the local government level, maintaining a balanced budget, aligning those expenditures with revenues is very important. And if we can do that, if we can continue to grow our county economy and maintain a balanced budget, we can find ways to mitigate the growing property taxes that people are experiencing. So some of the things that's happening, for example, in Malaga with Microsoft, can help the people, the residential property owners in Lake Chelan, you know, if we're smart. So if we continue to encourage our developing tech sector, support our agricultural base, enhance outdoor recreation, all of those things help us as a county deliver services, but we definitely have issues like housing, which I've worked on at the legislative level. So for me, I have a lot of experiences and relationships at the local, state, and federal level. And I think I can bring all of those experiences and relationships to the county for our benefit. I also think I can, whatever the issue is, it may be one issue today, but it'll be a different issue maybe next year. I can utilize my understanding of the grant process and how to secure funding to try to maximize opportunities for Chelan County. So I think I bring those experiences and skill sets, and then along with the state and federal relationships that I have as the state senator and the state representative, I've had the privilege of working with so many county business groups and community leaders and nonprofits. So I feel like I have those relationships already. And so whereas some people who come into office would take several years perhaps to kind of build those relationships with stakeholders, I already have them because I've worked so hard, and I have served in an elected capacity before, so I've taken criticism. So I kind of see myself as a seasoned and tested, experienced leader, and I have a history of working collaboratively and getting results. So I take that same approach to Chelan County.
Well, the question of economic development is an interesting one for Chelan County because we are a largely rural, lots of federally owned and managed land, state owned and managed land. We have cheap power, which attracts businesses, but then they also run up against development hurdles in terms of growth management. People want to live here, but they are having a hard time affording that. So development versus conservation, development versus the rural life. How do you balance that question out when you're thinking about Chelan County's approach to economic development?
Well, one of the things I think, to answer that question, that Chelan County could do is partner as closely as possible with the city governments and with communities. So, and when I say communities, I mean Malaga and Manson, for example, those unincorporated communities, but also to partner with the city governments too, because we can't look at Chelan County's needs as separate from the municipalities. So if we can continue to work together, maybe there's some opportunities for more housing developments and more higher density within those municipalities or within communities. And it's not just Manson and Malaga. I think the opportunities for Chelan Falls are pretty good, just outside Chelan. So the Lake Chelan community and the Leavenworth community are really struggling with housing challenges. I've partnered with both of those communities to meet some of the needs over recent years. But we have housing challenges too in Wenatchee, but at the same time, people identify our outdoor recreation as a tremendous asset, and people want to come here to live here and to recreate for the quality of life. So I think we have maintained a balance. Part of the challenges, though, are somewhat beyond our control because a lot of people have been moving over to Chelan County from Western Washington or up from California. California has recently lost a congressional seat, so a lot of the movement is, it's really hard to keep up with it and almost impossible to stay in front of it. So no matter what we do, I think we'll always be facing those challenges, but it's sort of a good problem to have because we're an awesome community. People want to live here.
You said you think in general the incumbent commissioners have been doing a pretty good job managing Chelan County, managing questions like this. But are there priorities that you're aware of, Brad, that the county board has set that you thought maybe were a little misguided? You saw a vote and said, well, if I'd been in that position, I might have made a different choice.
Well, I don't want to be too critical, but one of the things we have to be cautious about is drawing upon our reserves to balance the budget on an annual basis. We've had a lot of benefits in the state of Washington and in Chelan County from increased sales tax revenue. Anytime Chelan PUD refurbishes a hydro project, or you have the activity in Malaga from Microsoft with the data centers, that's going to be an influx of revenue, and we should maintain a healthy reserves. But having expenditures that may exceed the revenues and then drawing upon those reserves could be problematic over the long term. So we definitely don't want to do that, and that'll be something that I'll be very careful about because I have extensive experience on school boards and at the state level, making sure that the budgets are balanced. But largely I do believe the county commissioners have done a good job. I have a good relationship with them. I think some of the things that they've focused on are really on point too, like a forest products campus is something that they've mentioned and discussed, but I don't believe it's been too much of a focus county-wide yet in terms of the general public, but I think that's a great opportunity. They've really worked hard on the short-term rental issue, but I don't necessarily think that's over. So I've been on the campaign trail. I've spoken to a lot of folks, the chamber in Lake Chelan and the mayor of Lake Chelan and others that see that as a continual challenge. And so not really a criticism, but just my experience in the legislature is the state of Washington will work hard and deliberate and debate and eventually make changes and pass a law, and that law's in place. But that's not the end of it. Sometimes those laws need to be updated and refreshed or improved, modified in some way. So I think some of those issues will continue in the years ahead.
You're one of 4 candidates running. 3 of the candidates, including yourself, are Wenatchee residents or residents of the greater Wenatchee Valley. But you're running to represent communities all the way north up the Columbia, Eniat, Chelan, Manson, Stehekin. Is there a challenge in being, a Wenatchee person and saying, I understand you, Manson, I know what you're going through, Stehekin, representing those interests of the rural communities?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think rightly so that the folks up there kind of have a perception that if someone's from Wenatchee, are they truly going to represent us here in Eniat, Chelan, Manson, and others communities? For me, fortunately, I have a proven record of my listening sessions and being responsive to people as a legislator for the past several years. So I think I've built that trust and credibility up. Also, my father was experienced the same issues when he was a Chelan County Commissioner and eventually won over a lot of folks in Chelan and Manson. But one of the things that is interesting, because this is a district-based election, is it's not a county-wide vote in the primary, and a lot of people are so excited. A lot of people called me and say, "Oh, Brad, we can't wait to vote for you." It's like, "Oh, great. Where do you live?" "Well, we live in Kashmir." "Well, you can't yet, but I hope I get to the general ballot." So for the sake of the NCW Life listeners, there is a primary election coming up here early August, and it's just the District 3 within Chelan County. So it's North Wenatchee, as you mentioned, Eniat, Chelan, Manson, Stehekin, and those communities, and then the county-wide vote in November. And I actually believe, if I make it to November, that I'll fare much better in the county-wide vote. There'll be a very large turnout for that. The primaries are traditionally a small turnout, and not only a small turnout, the total number of voters will be very small because it is a portion of Chelan County.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the primary versus general system. Do you feel like that district-wide primary, county-wide general does a fair job of representing the voters' interests throughout the county? Or should it be simplified to where the district votes both times? They advance a person to the primary. What's your take on how that system works?
It's really an interesting process, and I believe it's worked well because people have been largely satisfied with their county commissioners. And it seems like, well, Commissioner Overbay served Chelan County, but he identifies with Malaga in his district, and so he can bring a unique perspective about that. Commissioner Smith with the Upper Valley, that area, Kashmir, Leavenworth. And I know, just like what we're talking about, the folks in Chelan and Manson want to feel represented. I think where it might get complicated is once you get in office, if people are contacting you as a county commissioner from someone else's district, and do you defer to that commissioner from that district? If someone from Kashmir contacts me, I would probably consult with Commissioner Smith, for example, on something like that. Or if people from Malaga are reaching out to me, I will ask, well, have you talked to Commissioner Overbay, because he's actually your commissioner from your district. But in the end, we need to do what's best for all the people in Chelan County. And so I'm familiar with sort of taking that perspective because I've represented Chelan County for several years in Olympia.
So Brad, as we mentioned, you've been an elected representative to the state for many years. Prior to that, elected school board member in East Wenatchee. So in all that time in working as a representative of voters, have you developed a philosophy that you think you would carry forward into the management of the county? I mean, if you had a guiding principle, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, well, my guiding principles have always been be a good listener, treat people with kindness, respect differences, try to find commonalities. You know, I've had a lot of success with that. You know, I try not to embarrass people or make people feel stupid. I mean, these are things they take in the legislature, and I've learned throughout the time that a couple things. One, I'm not going to go around telling people what I think they want to hear. I'm going to tell people what I believe to be factual, whether they want to hear it or not. And in the process, I hope to build trust and credibility with the people I serve, and I believe I've done that. Also, I've also learned that just because I think differently from someone else, it doesn't mean that I'm right and they're wrong. It just means that we think differently and have a different perspective, and we need to find a way to find a common solution. And a lot of the best solutions that I've worked on in legislation in Olympia haven't been all my idea. You know, I have an idea and another group has an idea, and then I talk with people based on what I hear, and we all collaborate, and then we come up with something that's an outcome that's better than what any of us could have thought of from the beginning. So that is kind of my philosophy. And you know, I am a very hard worker and a critical thinker, but you know, I am tenacious too, but I'm mild-mannered in the way I go about it.
Well, Brad Hawkins, one of 4 Republican candidates for Chelan County Commissioner District 3 in the August primary. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jefferson. Always good to talk to you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.